I remember, I think the stock got down to 568. At the time, my buy price was 5. Do you think I'm happy about that? No, it never hit my buy price. Should I pay? Of course, I would love to be able to go back in time and say, oh, look, I 5x my money. But that's what makes investing so difficult.
Welcome back. This is going to be a great video because, as all of you know, I've been following Palantir stock since it first got listed, and I've also been following Everything Money since they started commenting on Palantir, very skeptical of the valuation, and certainly right on them for being skeptical at $30 per share in 2021. They would have done well betting against the company at that point. No reason to throw shade there. However, they have been continually bearish for an extended period of time, especially when the stock was just around double digits and even far below that. Even when Palantir was $6, $7, $8, they were kicking Palantir investors when they were down and continually claiming how bad an investment it was going to be. But in this video, which they've just published a few days ago, they have quite literally, I believe accidentally, turned the corner, and at least Paul now appears very bullish. And I think that's just by the fact that he is now being much more rational with respect to analyzing the company. So I don't want to take up too much time in this intro, but I want you to understand how positive he sounds when talking about this stock compared to where he's been in the past, and ultimately how that leads us towards his conclusion towards the end. I'll have some commentary along the way.
Guys, Palantir is up huge in the last year, and there's a lot of people, especially on YouTube and Twitter, calling for Palantir to be the next NVIDIA, the next $500 per share. This company is taking over the world. That might be the case. Let's check out Palantir and some of the first things I love about the company. First off, 1 year return, 168%. God, that's incredible. Year to date, 35%. It's a great company. It's got amazing profit margins. It does amazing things with data. So I really want to show you guys how this company has grown tremendously over the last 6-7 years. Big growth rates, which you'd expect from a software business that has only $2.2 billion in revenue. It's still a small company. It's not huge. Well, the market cap right now is $49 billion. It got really low before because it got as low as $5 and some change. So this company right here was very cheap in terms of market cap. What I love here is, look at the enterprise value, 46.5. It's lower than the market cap. That means they have more cash on hand, which is great for a company to stay in business. Also, thing I love, free cash flow last year, $700 million, compared to 143 over the last 5 years. 12 quarters in a row, something like that, of free cash flow, which is great. I think you need to focus on the free cash flow here. Price to sales ratio, 22.1. It's 22 times is quite expensive. Now, the argument for that, the logical and good argument is this company can grow a lot faster than Microsoft and Adobe, way faster than them. So you should pay a premium. But is that an appropriate premium? I don't know. Their balance sheet's better. That deserves a premium, but they haven't been around as long. Okay? They've only been around since 06 or 05 or something like that. But it's still an incredible company. What do they do? Now, a lot of people say, oh, I don't know what Palantir does. It's very confusing.
So this part is actually super funny to me because not only has Paul sort of debunked Palantir's extended price to sales valuation being above Microsoft, well, that's because Microsoft is much more mature compared to Palantir. Sure, they have a tremendous lead in AI, many initiatives that are going to keep pace with Palantir, if not outperform it. But it's really not fair to give a higher price to sales multiple to Microsoft just because they're more established. And that's really where the growth and the future projections come into play. So not only is it funny that he's defending Palantir's valuation, but now he's also defending one of the biggest bear points for the stock, which is we have no idea what the company does, which never made any sense to me in the slightest. Software that helps businesses analyze their data, how difficult is it?
Palantir will go to a company and say, what do you need answered? Let's use your data to figure out the answer. As an example, Lennar Homes started using Palantir to help them with their bidding process on building homes, etc. The person who was in charge of making that had come from Tyson Foods, where they had hired Palantir to solve some of their data problems, and Tyson Foods has saved $700 million per year because of Palantir. That's big time stuff. Now, it sounds generic, but it's true. I truly believe they go to a company and say, listen, what problems do you have? Let's use data to solve it. And Palantir is doing a great job to figure out those data solutions. And even governments, what problems you have, let's use data to solve it. So I don't think this idea of we don't know what Palantir does is very accurate. Palantir had 497 customers. You might sit there and say, that's it? Well, yeah, but customers pay a lot of money to them. This is a 35% year over year increase in the number of customers. Of their revenue, 55% came from the governments and 45% were commercial, which means, companies out there, things like that. So they're trying to flip this a little bit, which I like, but government revenue is pretty solid. Governments always want to have data and they always want to spend money. So this doesn't bother me at all. And they're probably higher margin is my guess. I'm not 100% sure on that.
So just to set the record straight here, and in case Paul is watching, the commercial business is actually higher margin, or at least it has been maybe before the boot camps. But basically, the reason the government business has a lower margin, gross margin that is because of the additional costs associated with delivering and maintaining the product. So it just makes more sense when you think about it in a commercial context, easier to deploy Palantir than in a government context, and all the regulations, requirements, the security and everything like that. There are additional costs associated with the government product. But good on him for not just proclaiming something and making it up like some people do, but actually saying, this is my opinion, this is my thesis, and it might not be right, but this is what it is.
Now, of all these customers right here, 62% were in the United States, 38% were international. Guys, as the world grows and as governments get more and more funded because of GDP growth, this is going to increase. And I love that. Still, the US should be the number one because we have the most companies. We have all these things, government's big, et cetera. We have the largest GDP. I'm good with this. But I like the fact they're diversifying and growing more internationally. In 2023, part of this growth, their top 20 customers spent an average of $54.6 million with them. Guys, that's over $1 billion just in their top 20 customers, which was an increase from $49.5 million in 2022. So guys, the fundamentals are getting better. I love the fact I've also remember seeing that they wanted to generate more revenue growth, which meant they had to get smaller customers, and they were still able to grow their top 20 average customer contract. You sit there and go, what the hell just happened here? Was I wrong? Was I right? Is this thing just, because Peter Lynch always says, guys, I bought companies at $12. I've seen them go down to $2 and then skyrocket to 50. It's hard to sit there and look at Mr. Market telling you you're wrong and to still believe that you're right. But you have to look at the fundamentals. Their fundamentals have been getting better. 30 cents per share this year, growing to 83 cents a share. Still almost triple. Look at this growth, 20%, 20%, 50%, 24, 23.8. Big time growth. This company has a ton of potential in the earnings per share. Hopefully, they're not going to issue a lot of shares and dilute that. This is the revenue growth number. Ready, guys? 2.71, 3.27, 4.6, 5.3, 6.5 billion. That's growth of 18, 20, 40, 16, and 23%. Come on. This is incredible. I don't care what anybody says. This is amazing growth. And guys, by the way, I believe this is completely possible.
So this is quite a change of tune for him in terms of growth expectations, where in previous videos, I've watched many of them, when they analyze Palantir, they'll say 10%, 12%, 15%, or maybe at most 20% revenue growth, which is just laughable compared to what expectations really are and will turn out to be, and how the revenue growth will ultimately be realized. And so finally, he's gotten the message. I don't know what it was that convinced him that Palantir is going to grow more than 10 to 15% every year, but that was what he was expecting in past videos. And so a big 180 in terms of his understanding of the capabilities of Palantir's business overall, and you're about to see how that leads into his expectations for a stock price.
Peter Thiel is the one that started Palantir. He's an amazing business person. And I just look at this thinking to myself, yeah, he's awesome. Now, in full disclosure, before I do our stock analyzer tool, I'm not a fan of Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir. I don't like the fact that he sat here recently and went on a tirade about short sellers. I get it. Alex Karp, not going to lie to you, is just a weirdo. Now, that's just my opinion. A lot of people out there think I'm a weirdo. I get it. But focus on your business, Alex. Focus on that. Don't worry about the short sellers. If you run a business well, the stock price will go up. Just focus on that. And that's a problem I have a little bit with Palantir.
So this is really the only piece in this video that I've been watching of them that I completely don't understand. So They love to, at Everything Money in the videos they make, talk about rational, non-emotional investing, value investing, which is very much making objective decisions and not having subjective reactions to, let's say, what the CEO says in one interview when he's asked a question about short sellers. So I really don't understand Paul's perspective, and you could see his disdain for Palantir's CEO has kept him out of the stock, which has really, of course, impacted his ability to make money with it. So it's just a bit, I would say, ironic when he's telling everyone how to behave in the stock market non-emotionally, and then he has an emotional reaction to one single comment of one interview the CEO had as him disliking the company for some reason. So it doesn't make sense to me.
So on February 5th, I did analysis. Now, I did a 10-year analysis. Here's the revenue growth numbers I put in: 8, 16, and 24. These are very wide, but the company's young still. And there's a lot of growth potential, but maybe they miss.
So we're going to watch him finish off the analysis here. But first of all, the very first column with the lowest numbers is an absolute joke. Literally no chance. I would delete my channel if Palantir even reported one quarter with these numbers. Doesn't make any sense at all. Revenue growth 8%. That's just completely out of the realm of reality. And free cash flow margin is already nearly double what he's put in the first box here. So I would just caution against whatever the output is from this first column. The second and third columns, though, look a little bit better in terms of what an output might be for a stock price.
Profit margin. Now, as you can tell, guys, we don't really have much profit margin history. So I just put in 15, 25, and 35. For free cash flow, 9.5% over the last 5 years, 31% last year. I did 20, 30, and 40. I really don't know. That's another issue with companies that are just getting into cash flow and getting into profit. You don't have much history to go back on. Now for PE, I put 15, 20, and 25, mostly because high gross margin. I like what they do. I really like the business idea. And I think it deserves a premium with their margins and their ability to grow. So I'm okay with that. And for my return, I put 9% in here for the market return. This has no margin of safety. Remember that.
So this is another point of irony where he's talking about margin of safety, which essentially means that if you expect you earn a 9% return in the market, just in the S&P, you would want to earn a much higher rate for an individual stock, especially one that's more high growth, that has more risks like Palantir compared to a broadly diversified market index. So what he's saying is maybe you would put in 14% annual return that you'd want from Palantir instead of 9%. And that basically factors into the calculations as a discount rate. But what I don't understand is he's saying, oh, you need an additional margin of safety. Well, it goes both ways, right? Because when you say you want to buy at $5, but the stock only goes to $5.70, and you don't buy it within the realm of wherever the stock ends up, you'd be willing to own it. Because you're not always going to be able to buy at the exact round number that you wanted. You should say, oh, the stock's below $6, it's getting closer to $5. Maybe I average into a position, especially to establish it, instead of completely missing out when you had excellent analysis about relatively where the stock could end up in a bear scenario, and then you're off by 68 cents and you completely miss the boat on a 5x, as he said. So I find the whole margin of safety thing is kind of a joke, especially when he doesn't execute it in practice.
You have to put that in here. This is the market return. I believe that Palantir deserves a margin of safety that's ample. And by the way, guys, Seth Klarman says margin of safety is necessary because valuation is an imprecise art. We don't know the future, and we're humans. We make mistakes, especially on fast-growing companies that we get excited about. We want to go in there and go, oh, this is awesome. Just be calm. What margin of safety in there? That's up to you. But based on a market return, I hit the analyze button. I have a low price of $3 or $4, high price of 36 to 40, a middle price of 11 to 15. Guys, I'm actually going to change on my watch list from 6 to 10. It does not mean I'm buying it below 10. It just means that when it goes there, I can sit there, and if it hits 10, I can go analyze the company again.
So there you have it. He is basically as close to a bull as I think we will ever get for Paul from Everything Money. And When he analyzed the company last time, he said it was worth $5. He analyzed it again. Now he says it's worth $10. So the value's doubled in his opinion of the fair value of the company. I'm wondering where his analysis was previously and why he didn't think that when the company was at $5. Because if he saw it at $5.68 and he thought it was worth 10, he would have bought it. So it's just interesting how things change from a fair value perspective when you are sort of clouded by your judgment. You don't like the CEO. You think the stock's going to go down forever. And so ultimately, I want to give them some credit for getting better on understanding the company, knowing the breakdowns, and much more on the fundamentals, which I think has improved their understanding of the valuation, saying it could be worth $40. It's definitely not worth whatever their low end said, but I think they're getting better understanding, and that's great because they have a large audience. So I want to wrap this video up by saying I am glad to see some of the bears are turning more into bulls. Until next time.